ready?
Got open man. DJ Moore. End zone. Touchdown. Touchdown Bears.
I am Jeff Joniak.
Blitz is on. Down he goes. Oscar.
What was it like playing for Coach Ditka?
I don't want to answer any questions like that.
Pressure coming. He's in big trouble. Down he goes. Montez Sweat.
And etc.
Now, Bears Etc. brought to you by Geico, with the voices of the Bears, Jeff Joniak and Tom Thayer.
Well, the Bears ran into a San Francisco buzzsaw before cobbling together a competitive second half, losing 38-13 in Santa Clara, California. Week 14 did not go down like the Bears had hoped, and the result is a 7th straight loss and a winless road record this season. With Super Bowl winning Bears guard Tom Thayer, I'm Jeff Joniak, episode 118 of the Bears Etc. podcast, brought to you by Geico. Coming up, we'll hear from new head coach, the interim boss, Thomas Brown, a one-on-one interview about all sorts of things. But, Tom, overall, I did like the fight in the second half. I did like the way Caleb Williams completed balls at a high percentage, protecting the football once again, no interceptions. Rome Odunze flashing again with his ability to get in the end zone twice. First time since 2001 when David Terrell did it in that famous game against the 49ers in the Mike Brown pick-six game. But so many other things, and we've heard now from Thomas Brown on several occasions since the game and after watching tape, and he'll get into it a little bit, but there was a lot left on the bone, and execution was the big word, the lack of execution, despite a good week, they say, was good preparation.
Yeah, I mean, listen, you can't deny the fact that there's some frustration that was left behind in San Francisco, and that's the whole definition of a team sport when you don't win the game. And there's sometimes frustration when you do win the game, but there's a lot of correctable mistakes in that film. And I think Thomas Brown is a guy that's pretty diligent about his work ethic and work effort that he expects from the players. And he's going to challenge these guys this week when they get together in preparation for the Minnesota Vikings. But when you talk about that continuous developing relationship between Caleb and Rome Odunze, it's undeniable that they got something special that's brewing here that hopefully it will carry a decade-long opportunity to succeed. And then you have some landmark or benchmark accomplishments in guys like Keenan Allen that, you brought up to coach, and I'm glad that you did, because there's not a lot of guys in the league that have been able to accomplish what Keenan Allen has, and I think he's a good example of continuous hard work. When you look at what he was able to do in this football game, in those accomplishments that show the dedication to a career, I think it's a good influence for these other guys to see what you can do if you really dedicate yourself to a team sport that has the success of everybody in mind. And I think that is important because there's a lot of young guys in this team that need these types of examples to see to, have the best yet to come.
Tom, did you guys have issues in your career at any point starting fast? And did you go through stretches like this team? This is a uniquely long stretch of not able to start fast. And what do you do about it? What's the fix? Is it a mental thing? I mean, how do you look at it?
Well, it's just a continuous operation of making sure that you're developing a system that you're super confident in. But, the thing about it is football is kind of the unique challenge of it is when you go into an environment that it's loud and you don't have the organization that you do at home. Sometimes that's the obstacle to overcome. And when you have a young quarterback who's in charge of all those elements, sometimes it takes a while for him to get an understanding of how these environments need to be worked. But, I'm not going to sit here and say Caleb has ever let me down, because he hasn't. And I love where he's going with his career. And I do think when, time takes a hold of this system and they get an opportunity to all be fighting in the same direction, I think starters will be faster. And, that's why I'm so excited to see this game, Jeff. It's the first time in Caleb's career that he's going to have the same opponent twice in 1 year. We didn't do that in our college careers, and he hasn't either. So now you have a little bit of an example of a tape to watch of what you've already done against this football team. I have big expectations for Caleb and the entire Bear team.
Do coaches hold back a little bit when they know they got a second game coming?
I don't know if they necessarily hold back or they only feed as much as they have to.
Like show you a little something and then, hey, I got something for you to the next one.
Right, exactly. And coaches both ways. But if something's working successfully, you can do it multiple times in one game. And so you have a game plan or you have a play sheet that might have a couple hundred plays on it. But if during the course of that game you only have to use 50 or 60 of them, then that's all you got to use. Knowing good and well that you've been able to insert this information during the course of OTAs and training camp, knowing that you are exactly looking at this team and this style of defense when you were inserting it. So, hey, you may be holding more than a handful of plays that you want to use on the road, because sometimes it's a test to see how is your quarterback developing, who are the weapons that he likes to take advantage of, and now how can you use them in these types of environments.
We're brought to you by PNC, official bank of the Bears. Such a disparity in yards, and I know it's just yards, but it does lead to points, and it did for San Francisco going up 24-0, the 319-4 in the first half. I mean, these are remarkable numbers, right? And the inability to convert on third down or keep drives alive. They didn't turn the ball over but once on the fumble by Caleb Williams. This sport is something, man. It really boggles my mind sometimes.
Right. If I go back and I look at the first half, let me take away the 4 big plays by George Kittle. And if you take those 4 big plays away and then you change the down and distance, you change the frustration of those guys trying to get first downs, it changes the numbers that you're talking about of the first half. And so I know the other receivers, they were able to hit a couple of big plays and stuff. But to me, it's the frustration of the big plays that were offered to the tight end position. And I think the Bears have the quality of athletes that they can limit the success of tight ends in this league. And so to me, that would be a point of emphasis by Eric Washington and his staff going into this week, because they have a good tight end as well.
Yeah, DJ Hawkinson, Evan Engram, and Kittle all with 100-plus yards against the Bears, most against any team in the league with the tight end position. So it will be a big matchup. And, this quarterback, this scheme, outside zone, but they also like working in the middle of the field. And that's what Brock Purdy did. They had really not screened that much this year, but their screens were deadly. And so always new wrinkles that you're going to have to face. And a defense now with a new coordinator, that's an adjustment too, I'd imagine, even though he's been in the system for the greater part of this season. But so many things to work on, and that's the beauty of this. You can work on them, and they can be fixed as quickly as they created problems.
You look at George Kittle for the whole game, 6 receptions, 151 yards for a 25-yard average. You take those plays out of the first half, you have a chance to have some competitive scoring opportunities by the Bears offense, and then you maybe have a chance to be a little bit more aggressive at and from the line of scrimmage. Because when the Bears did blitz, they were able to get Brock Purdy off his spot. They were able to challenge his accuracy. And I think it's the same type of attack that you can have for a guy like Darnold in Minnesota this week. But you have to make sure that the coverage responsibilities against a tight end like Hawkinson, you don't let it get away from you and add extra yards to it, because you have a couple of good wide receivers in Jefferson and Addison. So I think it's just given Eric Washington the equal opportunity to go on the road and succeed with his defense. And I'm almost glad that they did play in San Francisco, because I like to see Eric Washington take the show on the road 2 weeks in a row in a hostile environment and see how this defense set of talent can work their skills.
Well, I think Thomas Brown indicated, I'd like to see a little bit more physicality on defense and a little more violence than was showed. Sure. And that was one. And he's now had 3 news conferences essentially since the game. He used words on Sunday after the game like challenge us to be the best, encourage, but demand to stay unified.
Yep.
That right there, demand to stay unified. That says something significant, and that's a lot to dive into a little bit. Got to go to work this week. Got to go to work next week. Got to go to work and do your best in your 4 games. So stay unified. Let's see what we get out of it.
but that message has to come from the players. That's not something that a coach is going to tell you in a meeting and then it's going to fit into the locker room. This is something that's going to fit in the locker room, and you're going to have these veterans that have a lot of experience in the NFL that are going to have that conversation with some of the veterans in the room and some of the young guys, and they're going to have to all kind of surround each other and, as they say, circle the wagons. And I think they have a leadership inside that locker room that have the ability to voice the need for exactly what Thomas Brown is saying. And I think it can be done, and I think it will be done.
Have a new or gently used coat laying around? Head to your local Jewel Osco until February 10th and donate one of your new or gently used coats to the 36th annual Chicago Bears Coat Drive. Help keep Chicagoans warm this winter. All right, so I took a different approach with Coach. I did an interview with him for ESPN 1000 earlier in the day. That was more about the game, X's and O's. I really, it just kind of evolved, this conversation, and it all stems from what you spent on the team playing, watching tape, breaking things down more than once, and it just became a conversation. So let's get the status at Hallis with head coach Thomas Brown. All right, thanks again, Thomas, for joining us here on Bears, Etc. Tom will be along in just a minute. I know you've already talked a lot about this game and the benefit of traveling that kind of distance. You do get a lot of work done on the plane, don't you?
Absolutely. Just having a chance from a prep standpoint, headed there, but also on the way back. And it gives me enough time to be able to grade both sides of the ball and also take a peek at special teams as well. I try to always, watch all phases multiple times, so I have a more accurate picture when I end up meeting with the coordinators, but definitely get a ton of work done.
Let me ask you about that, because I learned to watch tape from Tom Thayer, Super Bowl Bear. So over the course of my career, I don't know assignments or anything like that, but it just that ability to watch things over and over again, it slowed the game down for me to call the game. When you first started playing football and you ran the ball at Georgia, before you went to the NFL, did you know how to watch tape?
Absolutely not. I think coming out of high school, you don't really watch much tape in high school. It's normally everybody's in the same media room, and the head coach might have a couple of clips to show from the other opponent. But I think like anything else, it's a skill you have to develop when it comes to understanding what you're looking at, but also, understand how to break down the actual film. So watching the game is one thing. Building cut-ups in preparation is something different. So we try to do a really good job as I learned throughout, you talked about the years at Georgia, of what am I looking at? I think when I was a freshman, I'm just watching tape, and the tape is running. I have no idea what I'm looking at. I'm not, necessarily reading coverage or looking at linebacker dimensions. I'm looking just for big plays. As time goes on, you understand to look at, formation alignments from a defensive standpoint. Are there any pressure tells, indicators when it comes to how linebackers' feet are? Also, how guys kind of play and defend certain blocks, so you kind of anticipate certain reads. But I think like anything else, repetition is the mother of learning. So the more you hear it, the more you see it, the more you do it, the better you become at anything.
Yeah, the crazy thing about it, it's the subtle stuff. It's the hand placement. It's the footwork. It's how somebody's lined up. The uniqueness of the greatest players that in a split second can do something that 0.1% of the entire award is capable of doing because of their strength, their athleticism, or their instincts, right? And that's the beauty of watching tape, because if you really slow it down and watch it over and over and over again, it almost paints a different picture every time.
There's no question.
Don't you agree?
It's like watching poetry in motion at times. And I think, that's why I oftentimes get irritated when people speak about athletes or football players in general of not being intelligent. You have to be highly intellectual to be able to understand and diagnose and process things in a split second and make a full speed decision with the game on the line. So I think it's all about, kind of what you commit yourself to. And as you mentioned before, the greats become the greats because of their habits and what they repeat on a regular basis, but also what they can kind of do a really good job of with tendencies. So I try to do a really good job with the offense of how we marry formations and motions. I'd even just talking with Caleb about his mechanics and demeanor in the pocket, pre-snap wise. They're going to keep everything off of your hand placement. Do you grab the towel before the ball comes? Any mannerism they can pick up on before the ball snaps. So trying to be as uniform as possible. They can't get a key on when the ball's going to be snapped.
It's almost, and I play baseball, so I always used to hitch before I threw. And sometimes if a fast runner, he got me, But almost every quarterback taps before they throw, though. To me, that's an indicator, right? But it is part of the ritual that you grew up with, or you can't. I mean, it's just you, right? Do you find that interesting that a lot of quarterbacks tap it first?
Yeah, I think it just goes back to habits. I think whether you create good habits or bad habits, they still define who you are. And so, as you mentioned, a lot of QBs do kind of pat the ball before the ball comes out. I remember being in LA and listening to our DBs coaches talk about pattern matching, reading QB ball out break. A lot of those guys would make their breaks off of a QB pats. Ball's about to come out, so they would go trigger and drive on the ball. Which to me, if you're aware of that from a quarterback standpoint, you can play off of that, and you can dummy tap, make a defender drive for double moves, and throw the ball behind them. So, but it's definitely all about kind of playing the game within the game, and also how much can you disguise and minimize the tendencies you kind of expose to the other opponent.
So with that being said, when you watched it and watched it again and watched it again, and you'll watch it again with the team, what are some things that you feel are correctable from the tape from yesterday's game?
Yeah, the execution first and foremost, as far as our assignments, our details, and how we execute the plays. I think plays become just lines on a sheet until you bring them to life. Something the more clarity we can give our guys, a better understanding, the better they can execute. Obviously, again, we played a really good football team. This is the NFL. There's no D League of the NFL, so it's the best of the best that are here. And so week in and week out, you're going to face really good opponents with really good players, and so have to be ready for that challenge and be up to it. I think also when it comes to separating, motivation and confidence from actually execution. I think our guys were definitely motivated. They were definitely confident. We had a really good week of preparation. But the game day execution is what matters the most when it comes to winning and losing football games.
And with that becomes the psyche of a player or a team. Do you feel that you have a pretty firm grasp on the overall psyche of the team, especially one that now has unfortunately lost 7 games in a row? Because that could go many different ways. But you've been there the whole season, and it's not just now that you're in charge. You have had a good sense of it. But the hopes of a winning season, for example, are dashed. But now it's about just putting your best foot forward for the Final Four. Do you have a good sense of that from these guys?
Yeah, I feel like I do. Obviously, anytime you drop 7 in a row, I'm not going to say the psyche is going to be in a great spot. That would be unrealistic and not a true statement. But I think as far as our guys' belief in themselves and the ability to be able to fix things and get better, that's not lost. I think there's definitely still a good continuity in the locker room as far as their belief in each other, which is one of the big points of emphasis I wanted to make last week as far as staying connected, unifying as a football team. So we had an opportunity to continue to move forward. And ultimately, we're all paid to do our jobs. And so regardless of feelings, those don't really matter. I think feelings come and go. As a grown man, you have to do stuff sometimes that you don't feel like doing. And our responsibility is to attack every single day and be at our best.
And this converges with the Monday night game. National attention. They're going to be looking at us. They're going to be poking at us. They're going to be looking at what's next and everything. How do you plan on telling these guys, hey, listen, man, this is us on Monday night. We gotta stay together, which I don't doubt you won't. But we gotta really play some really good football against this Minnesota Viking outfit.
Yeah, I think my message continues to say the same as far as the outside noise. I think it becomes harder for our players at times because it's a social media generation. So everybody looks at their phone, they watch every TV show. I don't look at anything on purpose during football season. I don't really care about the outside world or what their thoughts are, even if it's positive. It doesn't help me do my job any better. And so I'll keep the same message as far as, yes, a primetime game, yes, Monday Night Football, yes, the whole world is watching. But the most important thing is how we prepare and being able to play at our best when it matters the most.
Yeah, I'd imagine that's super difficult. Yeah,
it is difficult.
Because that phone, man, that thing lights up. It was lighting up during the broadcast for me. I'm like, I can't look.
Yeah, I just turn notifications off, and I do have a little small Instagram deal. I scroll past certain things, don't even look at it, even if it's positive. It doesn't matter. I'm just keep scrolling and look at something different. So I think diet is definitely what you put into your body, but also diet is also what you allow to go into your ears and also in your eyes. So I don't care who you are or what you think, that will still have an effect on you from a subconscious standpoint. So I choose to always ignore it and block it out, particularly during football season.
I need to take that advice from you as well, buddy.
It's hard. It's hard.
It is hard. Let's talk about some. I want to talk about DeAndre Swift, because when Homer goes down, no Roshan, he's the man, right? You got Darrington Evans there, but he's been around for 3 years, but hasn't been here much this season. And I was looking at the workload, okay, because it was going to be him in the second half, and clearly that long drive was a part of it. But is he capable of a good heavy workload? I went back and looked. Last season against Minnesota, he went 28 for 175, 21 for 73 against Carolina this year. So he's capable of handling a big load if necessary.
There's no doubt about it. I think he's in the right mindset and right framework as far as how he competes and prepares every single day. But the issue sometimes when it comes to that position is how volatile it can be. It's a very volatile position. So I think playing running back every single snap, you're either getting hit by multiple people or you've been asked to hit people. So there's very, very few snaps that are kind of end up being non-contact downs for a running back. But I think he's taking on the task. He wants to be in the entire time. And sometimes you got to save him from himself, so he doesn't wear himself down. But you want to have that mentality versus the other way.
And then what did you think, as a great player, watching great players, you never get sick of watching greatness. And Keenan Allen is that. The fastest to 950 catches in 150 games, as it turned out, now 11,000 yards, sixth active. There's only 14 players that have 1,000 catches in the NFL. So just I know it's in a losing effort, but that's significant. It's kind of cool. He's part of the Bears, although he's been, the LA Chargers guy, but to have that happen in this game.
Yeah, like you said before, I mean, it's obviously kind of gets overshadowed at times because of our record and losing football games. But greatness is greatness. And as you mentioned, he's been one of the best for a very long time and continues to prove himself to be consistent. I said it back in training camp. I think the guy's unguardable when he wants to be able to kind of have some one-on-one opportunities. So continue to prove himself every single day, and we'll continue to find ways to get him involved.
Do you feel like with Dunze, still learning, obviously, but a good connection with Caleb, you got Cole Kmet, you got DJ, you got Keenan, other players as well, that these guys all are capable of being uncomfortable?
There's no question. I think that's a benefit of having the guys that we have, and we have displayed at times. Didn't necessarily showcase itself yesterday, but I would say that the previous games before that, 3 in a row against 3 of the best in the league, those guys have consistently made plays, and we continue to find ways to get them open. And obviously, Caleb has found them as far as with accurate ball placement, rhythm, and timing. That's definitely important. And you obviously mentioned Rome. Rome is the youngest of all that bunch, but I mean, that dude is to me, is already special and continue to be special in the future because he's super detailed and elusive route runner. Has really strong, aggressive hands. So love all those guys kind of get involved in the game.
All right, now, look, we got a long week. So last question. What's it going to be like getting in the ring again, going toe-to-toe with Brian Flores?
Yeah, I mean, he's one of the best in the league, if not the best. I think he actually did reach out to me after the first time we played him, which I think was great of him. And I do appreciate him reaching out to me, and I exchanged a couple of texts with him. But it's going to be harder than it was the first time. I think once you kind of show your hand and expose yourself, he does a great job of adapting and adjusting and giving you some new looks. Their defense probably has the most disguised to it of any in the league. So it'll be about trying to prepare our guys the right way, particularly, Caleb from a quarterback standpoint of understanding different looks, how to diagnose things fast, but also the ball distribution, put the ball in play, and, not losing the game because of the stuff that they do as far as how they impact the coverage units.
Do you mind a follow-up on that with him? How
Sure.
rare is that, and had you guys a previous relationship?
I met him one time briefly, just at the combine, just walking in past, and I just told him how much respect I had for him, introduced myself to him, and kind of just kept moving. So, not much dialogue before that, but I think it was really cool and also humbling of himself. Again, he is regarded as one of the best, if not the best in the league at his role, and so I think it's also a good testament to the display we had from an offensive standpoint that you garner respect of one of the best in the league. And it'll be another tough test for us on Monday Night Football.
That was pretty cool. That's a pretty cool story. Thank you so much. Appreciate the time. I knew you get a kick out of the tape watching thing, but I got a bigger kick out of Brian Flores. The text from Brian Flores.
I agree. That really surprised me. And, I don't know Brian Flores at all, but I admire the fact that he reaches out to another coach that has an opportunity of a lifetime, and he's wishing the best for him. So it's just the same thing that we wish for Thomas Brown. We wish the best for him because everything I hear from him speaking publicly, whether a private interview with you or from a podium, I like what I hear. And I want to see if the players are gutsy enough to accept the challenge that he's laying out there for them. Can you circle the wagons? Can that leadership the leadership guys with experience inside that locker room, kind of send that message. And I'm not saying the word leadership council or the captains, because, I think guys like Caleb and Rome, it's probably a better time for them to listen than to talk, and to let some of the experience, the Keenans, the DJs, the Montez, TJs, Tremaine, Kevin Byard, DeAndre Swift, those types of guys lead that type of conversation in the locker room, because they have a lot more experiences in an NFL season that they can either, talk about their experience or bring in some of the memories of what they feel made the best team they've ever played on.
Caleb hasn't really discussed it too much. I know he's been asked a few times, but he always takes a positive tone on this whole experience, and it's been interesting, to say the least. The Bears have had quite the ride here to deal with. All sorts of things. You name it, it's happened in his first year, and he's getting sacked quite a bit. It's over 50. It's a lot. It's team record for a quarterback, the amount of sacks. You wonder what his mind, like what's going through him, in your opinion. What do you think's going through his mind right now? Because it can be a really long season, and there's still a month of games left. And how do you manage to keep learning things that will help you in your career for the next 10 to 15 and still stay positive and stay in tune with development? To me, there's a lot there to go through.
And I say it often, I've never been disappointed by anything Caleb has said or done on the football field, because you can see what he does on the football field, that he's taken accountability of his study requirements. He knows the game plan. He knows how to communicate. He knows how to verbalize if he has the luxury of playing at home, and he knows how to hand signal if he's on the road. So everything that I've seen Caleb do, I have a lot of respect for. I also think that he's the type of guy that puts the accountability on himself, that he's going to be a big reason why this thing gets turned around ultimately. And he's going to be a success story. We've seen guys in the NFL, the Troy Aikmans and stuff, that have difficulty during their rookie year, that all of a sudden they become a multiple-time Super Bowl champion and a future Hall of Famer. And I know there's a long way to go between year one and a Hall of Fame career for Caleb, but I do see the personality within him, that he wants to take the responsibility and put that responsibility on his shoulders for being a big reason why this thing is going to get turned around.
Yeah, I'd love to dip into the minds of guys like Troy Aikman and Peyton Manning, knowing how they endured their rookie seasons, the lack of wins for Peyton Manning, leading the NFL in interceptions, and Caleb's not even throwing interceptions. That's the beauty of that. But everybody. I mean, look what Sam Darnold's doing. He's got 28 touchdown passes. I mean, it just came out of nowhere.
That's the thing about it, is because of there's like a separation, a dividing line in the era of quarterbacks. When you think of guys like Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers, who sat multiple years behind the starter to waiting to get their opportunity to play, Caleb wasn't offered that luxury. But then you look at the Peyton Mannings and the Troy Aikmans and the other guys that came in and they were immediate starters in the difficulty of their rookie year. But Peyton always says, in order to get experience, you got to play. And I think that's exactly what Caleb is going through this year. And I think the experience that he's gaining throughout this year, and we talk about the development of the relationships between Rome or Cole or all of these guys on his team that are going to be around here for a long time, that I do think Caleb is the right man for the job. And like I said, I've never seen anything yet that has disappointed me.
Yeah, and he's got to understand it's not going to be this way like this all the time. I mean, there may be some tough years down the road.
Yeah, but it's not only on him.
Yeah, exactly.
This is about putting the effort on display, the commitment on display that the other players can gravitate towards. And I do think that's,
But, we always hear, that at this point, the only important thing is the development of the quarterback. No, it is the development of a team.
Right.
As well. And obviously, we that needs to happen. But
it all goes hand in hand, though.
Yeah.
You're not going to develop the team and not develop the quarterback, or you're going to develop the quarterback and not the team. The attitude and the work ethic of the quarterback can be reflected in the performance of the other guys. Can he save a misprotection? Yes. Can he save a misread by a receiver? Yes. Though the little things that he can do because of his commitment to the knowledge needed to play that position, I think Caleb can do everything that's asked of him.
I got a question. Did you ever talk to Dan Marino about his career? Like, didn't get to go to a Super Bowl and win one.
Yeah, I mean, I have, but
what's he say?
My first opportunity to play with Dan Marino was in a college all-star game. So my senior year in college, we played Pitt at Pitt. They were number 1 in the country, and we went there and we beat them. I don't know how we did it, but we did. Then I was his teammate at the Hula Bowl, and I got to watch this incredibly talented, mature quarterback that was at a status already above a lot of us young punk college kids that we didn't know South Bend from South Wilmington. It's just that kind of way. And then you kind of understand what a great pro that he's going to be. And even though he didn't get picked till later in the first round, he went in there and he was immediately successful. And he had a great relationship with Coach Shula. And I don't think that Dan Marino, when you're a Hall of Famer, it's not, your greatness isn't necessarily judged exclusively on a Super Bowl. It's go to a Hall of Fame banquet and take 25 offensive players and ask them, would you be willing to play for Dan Marino? Every one of them. It's a consensus yes. So, that's the thing about it too. What type of league-wide respect do you gain, even though that you haven't had the opportunity to win a Super Bowl?
And all kind of names are popping into my Fran Tarkenton, Hall of Fame player.
Right.
No Super Bowl win.
Right.
It's just interesting, this whole quarterback thing, that it's blown up in such a way that it's only
Esiason.
It's only about that.
Yeah, there's a lot of great guys that had great careers that didn't.
Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Illinois, right here at home, driving access toward healthier communities through it all. I know the defense really struggled, but what'd you think about the performance of T.J. Edwards? Because I did think he played with a mean streak and some violence and had really, really challenging assignments with the type of defense they were playing and what was being run by Kyle Shanahan. But he wound up with a good line of 10 tackles and blitzes and cover. I mean, there was a lot there. 1 sack, had a near interception. I thought his pressure on blitzes was good. What do you think?
Physicality.
Yeah.
That's TJ. That's the thing I think about him every time hey, someone asks me outside the building about TJ Edwards. The first thing I say, his presence of delivering physicality to the lineup is undeniable. And he's the type of guy, whether it's meeting a running back in the hole, taking on an offensive lineman that's a lead blocker, or having a chance to support and pass protection. He never goes backwards. TJ Edwards makes a hit and he goes forward, and he's bringing a body with him. So for the reflection of the linebacker history in the NFL and in the Chicago Bears, he fits in right with the rest of them. And so TJ Edwards is a really good example for young guys to follow.
It sounds like cleanups and communication though on the back end.
Yeah, that's the thing about a competitive offense. They have that's where the challenge lies. They can try to get you out of position, and out of position for defense is a half a step off balance, a step forward when you should be going backwards, or backwards when you should be going forwards. And it's even Thomas Brown, you talk about the very little things. And I just wish the quote I could remember, because I think it might have been about the linebacker position. When you make an instant decision for a sudden movement, or there was some reference to that, and I really liked it, and I wanted to remember the quote, so I'll go back and I'll listen to it so I know exactly what he said.
Good news, Chicago United Airlines is getting brand new planes with all the bells and whistles like Bluetooth connectivity, screens at every seat, and room for everyone's roller bag. United, proud to fly the Chicago Bears, and you too. If you had 3 things that you want this team to focus on in the final 4 weeks of the season, I know it's a one game at a time thing, but can you, and I know I'm getting you off guard here, but what are 3 things that are must-haves that can equate to victory and at least representing yourself in a competitive fashion?
Running game assignment assuredness. I don't want 2 offensive players going after 1 defensive players. I don't want you passing up opposite colored jerseys on your way to the hole. And that's from the commitment to the running back to the blocking up and down the line of scrimmage. I want that assuredness that everybody understands exactly what their assignment is every single play, and they follow it to the nth degree. That would be just one thing that I would need most going forward throughout the remainder of the season. And then, Caleb to be provided with protection for the proper length of time according to the routes, because there was a couple times that, Cole Kmet was open way downfield, and, you need the security that the protection is going to hold up long enough securely that you can stand there, set your feet, and deliver the ball accurately. And then everybody be pushing in the same direction. And I think that starts in practice. And I think Thomas Brown will be super diligent about that, where you get a chance to watch the first film that you were a head coach, and he talked about it, being able to watch it multiple times on a trip of that length so he can talk offense, defense, and special teams. But then when you start that preparation for this week's game against Minnesota, everybody's got to be efforted in the exact same direction every single play, every single assignment, so they can, be in lockstep with each other on offense.
And I'll throw a third on there, just overall discipline on defense. Discipline in your coverage, discipline in your pass rush, discipline in your assignments, discipline in your communication.
That's a must.
Yeah.
That's a must. And then if you have that responsibility of demonstrating that physicality in a one-on-one, man, you got to bring it. You got to do it for the rest of your teammates and the Chicago Bears.
I pointed this out on the team flight on the way home. Kurt Warner had a text. Not a text. Make it seem like we're texting each other. No, I don't have his number. You might, but I don't. This was on X. Advice to quarterbacks. Most O-lines don't have ability to pass block that long. Know the play, protection assignment, get it out efficiently. Most times, more important to get quickly on the radar defense so you are lined up and on time. What's he trying to say here?
First of all, understand the route concept when you break the huddle. Understand where the possible vulnerabilities is in your protection. Understand if you have any type of responsibility awareness. And then when that route is open, get the ball out of your hand as quickly as possible. And that's one thing when I was watching the game the other day against San Francisco, the Bears ran a bootleg to the right. And I almost wish I would run more bootlegs, because I think it's a way to get Caleb to the exterior of the offense and have an open opportunity. So they ran a bootleg to the right. DJ Moore came in motion. To me, it looked like you could easily shovel pass it to DJ Moore, put the ball in his hands, and let him be the playmaker that he is. But they swung it all the way out to the right-hand side, and he ended up throwing it to DJ Moore. But you gave the opportunity for the defenders to get in pursuit of DJ Moore, so when he made the catch, he was already avoiding defenders. When you have that type of play, get into the hands of the playmaker as quick as possible. Don't look for an unrealistic destination route when you have one right in front of you with an athlete like DJ. And so getting the ball out of your hands as efficiently and as quickly as possible to give that playmaker a chance to get on the offensive. Just that one little bootleg example is something that you're talking about.
And I didn't mean to insinuate he's talking about Caleb. He's just talking about quarterbacks.
It is, but that's a truism from playing from every quarterback I played with. That's exactly. It's a good coaching point.
Bears fan Steinhoffels is a proud partner of the Chicago Bears, and this Bears season, Steinhoffels is partnering with Special Spaces Illinois to create dream bedrooms for children battling cancer. For every false start caused by the Bears defense during a home game, Steinhoffels donates $1,000 to Special Spaces Illinois. Shop in-store and online at steinhoffels.com. All right, let's look at the Vikings. Well, let's look at injuries. So we don't have any info yet, but Travis Homer left with an apparent concussion. Javon Dexter was having real problem running.
The ankle,
yeah, the ankle, and I'm missing one. Oh, DeAndre Carter had the ankle. So obviously Dexter, that's big because I still like to see him finish this year strong, playing as much as possible, just getting all those valuable reps for what will be his third year next season, and an important one. Third year is always the important one.
But I want him to be healthy on his feet. I don't want him to be playing on one leg because that's too difficult for interior defensive tackle to try to balance, shed blocks, get in pursuit, all these things. If you do have a leg issue that really inhibits your abilities. And I want to see Dexter play to the best of his ability. And so I would be, maybe he got one extra day to recover. Hopefully it wasn't that bad and he can.
I respect the fact he came back out there, though.
Me too. I'm glad he gave it a try. But, there's a little difference in playing on natural grass than sports turf. I think you really need to be healthy in your shoes on sports turf.
So the Vikings rolled through Atlanta. We already know about it. I mean, Jefferson and Addison, 5 touchdowns, 265. Just a crazy performance. Atlanta, I mean, they blitzed a lot. They sacked Darnold 3 times in the first half, but then they kind of took over. It's the first duo in the 64-year history of the franchise to get 100 yards and 2 touchdowns, each facing, for each guy. So they faced a lot of single high coverage, and they took advantage of it, so you got to give them credit. All this being said, the Vikings gave up almost 500 yards of offense. They just kept them out of the end zone. Otherwise, it could be a whole different story here. So what are the Bears walking into, I guess, is my big question.
I think Flores is going to look at the lasting impression that Caleb probably put on him when they played here in Chicago, because I think Caleb had a good rhythm going with this offense in the latter part of the game. And like I said, first time you get to play an opponent twice in 1 year, I'm excited to see the challenges that this defense sees for themselves. When you look at Cole and you look at Caleb and you look at DeAndre Swift and you look at Keenan and you look at DJ, there's a lot of weapons that they got to be concerned about as well. So to me, it's more about what does Caleb feel comfortable with in his attack? What protections suit the Bears' offensive protectors the best, and how to attack them relentlessly downfield?
Tastes like Miller time. Chicago, celebrate responsibly. Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. 96 calories and 3.2 carbs per 12 ounces. Sam Darnold, by the way, the last 4 games, 11 touchdowns, no interceptions. There's some people talking about him as an MVP candidate.
Yeah, I mean, hey, he's having a great year. And I mean, he should just be happy with what he's been able to accomplish, because I think a lot of people kind of felt that his career was probably on the downslide. But his arrow has never been pointed more up than the day he was drafted.
And time to finish things up with our Geico Gives You More football stat of the week. It's nothing of a big deal in terms of a unique stat, but I'm embracing it because Thomas Brown's embracing it. Bears did not have a single penalty pre-snap. 2 penalties for the entire game. I like that.
And that's in a loud environment like out in Santa Clara for the San Francisco 49ers. The environment will be as hostile as it's been at any time this season. But again, that line of scrimmage discipline for the offense plays an important role in first and second down.
All right, Tom, we're going to wrap up here. Coming up later in the week, we're trying to secure Joe Buck, who will be calling the game on Monday night with Troy Aikman. See if we can get that done on Thursday.
Oh, man, I won't get a word in edgewise between the two of you guys.
Don't worry, we'll give you plenty of runway, buddy. Special thanks to our head coach, our interim head coach, Thomas Brown. For Tom Thayer, I'm Jeff Joniak. Thanks for listening, everybody. Please subscribe now on the Chicago Bears official app, Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. Bear down, everybody.